Check this out, y'all. This first box of Pretty Red Roses on it, that's gonna relate to my two sisters. And this second box with red roses on, two red roses on it, gonna represent my two daughters. This is the part I forgot to tell, but it's gonna be fun now. Then I'm gonna tell it in a single video that ain't gonna last too long. Now, this first box, like I said, represent my second born sister Hope and my third born sister Patty. People used to always think because they look like twins that they was twins, but they never was twins. They is like at least a year apart and a day apart, and that makes it fun. I like it like that. And then this second box gonna relate to my two daughters. My firstborn daughter Delilah and my second-born daughter Shira. Both of them people thought they was twins too, but they wasn't. They are a year and 10 months apart. Now, back it up over here to my two sisters, Patty and Hope. People thought they was my children to the point I thought it was weird because I had never started having sex yet and no babies was born, but I was their babysitter and that's it. Some people really did. Thought they were my kids. Only one guy started that stuff, but then some other guys started thinking the same thing as I run across town with my two kids' sisters. So they was thinking that those kids are my kids, but too bad. Funny part about it, they thought my two sisters was my kids. Then when I got to my own kids, when I had my own two daughters, people thought they was my sisters. That's the turnaround that I was trying to want to share with y'all. They were thinking that my two daughters was my two sisters. Then they first thought that my two sisters are my two daughters when I had, started babysitting them way before I started having my own two daughters. Time I started babysitting my first two sisters and became my last two sisters because my mom didn't have no more kids that was girls, but had a son last. But anyway, back to my two sisters. People thought they was my daughters, my two sisters. Thought they was my two daughters. Then when I had my own two daughters, they thought they was my two sisters. That's so funny. That's just how it was. And I was like, shoot, you know what? I felt like they could play the role as my two daughters while I was babysitting them so hard, while my mama working so hard. Then when I had my own two daughters, I started feeling just the opposite. Like maybe they could be portrayed as my two sisters because it's me and my daughters, we try to dress alike sometimes. Like we might as well have been sisters, but we wasn't. Anything, it was my two daughters. Sometimes we try to dress like with colors. Sometimes, just a few times I thought about it. Since somebody thought my two daughters was my two sisters when they wasn't, I started believing in dressing like them a little bit and them dressing like me a little bit. But it ain't like I really ran in the ground because I'm a grown woman and I was their mother, so I didn't hardly play that role, but just a few times just to see how it feels because people thought my two daughters was my two sisters, but it wasn't. Then when I did babysit my two sisters, they thought they was my two daughters. So it made me feel like a mother when I wasn't their mother. That's how I felt. So much for that though. I think I liked every moment of it, so it wasn't so bad after all. Made me glad I went through all that with those four females. Two of my sisters and two of my daughters. How about that? Well, so much for that, y'all.